right, let's put some purpose in this party. From Washington, D.C., where he's sounding a little better than he did on Friday. Roland Martin, good morning.
Tom, civil guy, good morning. Y'all, I was at the game Friday with Tom. I couldn't talk about the game. I would text him, like, read this.
Sitting next to him?
Yeah.
Sitting right next to him.
Because I couldn't talk.
But my thumbs work. It's all good, all good. Glad to be here. The political world blew up on Friday, not because Senator Cory Booker got in the race, because of the drama in Virginia when it was revealed a 1984 medical school yearbook showed the governor of Virginia, Ralph Northam, either in blackface or in a Klan outfit. Now, Friday night, he released an apology. He got, every Democrat has said he's got to resign. Last night, he had a news conference on Saturday. He said he's not resigning. Being talked about, he wasn't in blackface in those photos, but he did put on some shoe polish to act like Michael Jackson. I'm still confused.
Yeah.
Right.
Last night, he had an emergency board meeting with his cabinet. Still has not resigned. What will happen today? Joining us right now is Reverend Dr. William Barber, President and Senior Lecturer of Repairs of the Breach, architect of the Moral Mondays movement in North Carolina, co-chair of Unite the Poor. Reverend Barber, folks are saying, look, the photo was in 1984. That's 35 years ago.
So?
He was 25. Why should he resign for something that took place 35 years ago, you say?
Well, first of all, what I say, Vic, and thank you, Martin, for having me on this morning, you and Tom, is that we are going to keep getting caught in these what I call cultural racism, which is grotesque, it's ugly, it's mean, it has all of the signs of symbolic racism, and you should deal with it. But here's the concern that I have in terms of the resignation, and I think that's the people of Virginia and others who are calling for him to do so. But we also have got to have a real conversation about what real racism is in this country. You see, we're calling on him to resign because of this picture 30-some years ago. But right now, he's refusing to protect the black community in Union, Virginia, that has a pipeline running straight through their community. That is a form of environmental racism. And so what I want us to do is to get to the depth of structural and systemic racism. Because if we're going to call for him to resign over something in 84, which people have the right to do, then we're going to have to call for some of these folks to resign who today are standing against fixing the Voting Rights Act, who are standing against living wages, who are standing against health care, who are standing against our Native community, who, like Mitch McConnell, went on the floor of the United States Senate and never used the N-word, but is standing against a bill that will open up the franchise of voting, which is nothing. He sounded more like George Wallace the other day on the Senate than a modern-day senator. We have got to get – otherwise what we're going to do is we're going to keep having these knee-jerk reactions, and even the extremists who vote against us every day will say, well, I'm against that. I'm against the photo. I'm against that. And I get that. But they'll be able to get off the hook, and we'll keep having conversations about cultural racism and not the structural systemic racism that's happening every day.
Well, in fact, you can see it where the chairwoman of the Republican Party, Ronna McDaniel, is tweeting about him. And I tweeted her, and I'm like, oh, but you said nothing about Steve King for years.
Right. And even when they censor Steve King, he's still voting against us. He's still been a part of the group that has blocked the Voting Rights Act being restored for 5 years, like Ryan Boehner and McConnell. We've got almost Roland and Tom have got to come up with a 10-point questionnaire on what real racism is and get down to do with all of these candidates, because there's a whole lot of people that will say they're against Charlottesville for it's so extreme. They'll say they're against somebody being in blackface or dressing like the Klan because it's so extreme. And it is. It's ugly, grotesque. But then we'll go right to a state house, right to the Congress, and vote every day on policies that are full of disparate treatment and racism, and we never call that out. And then what happens is we have these big media conversations about cultural racism. And take, for instance, the worst racism we've seen the last few years was the voter suppression that took place in 2016 and the voter suppression that took place in Florida and Georgia against Stacey Abrams and Gillum, and we haven't had a conversation on that at all.
Roland,
The governor of Georgia needs to resign for that matter because he participated in outright voter suppression against Stacey Abrams.
Roland, the school that allowed these pictures in the yearbook, what school is this?
It's a medical school in Virginia. In fact, they also released other photos from that yearbook, and there were other folks in blackface in that same photos. And these are people who are doctors today in Virginia and across the country.
And, Tom, you just put your hand on something. See, there again, we need to know about that school. How many black people that they've been turning down? Not just how many pictures that they allow in, but what's their percentage of black people? I want to know what Northam's cabinet looks like. I want to know, and if he's going to stay, which he has a right to stay, that they can't force him out, then we ought to demand some things that he act on if he claims he's not a racist. Then protect those black folk in union. Protect those people. What does your cabinet look like? And what kind of African Americans does he have on the banking commissions and the power commissions of that state? If he's going to stay, then he ought to have to show, and he ought to be out front all the way on issues of systemic racism. Now, those pictures are grotesque and ugly, and they may very well point to something deep within. I believe they're wrong. He knew about it. I understand the resignation. All I'm saying, if you call for resignation here, then let's use this to get into what real systemic structural racism is, and not only call for his resignation, but call for some others. Otherwise, we're going to keep having a knee-jerk reaction, and some Republicans and extremists will like this because they don't have any problem censoring a Steve King or calling out Northam on some pictures. But every day they will participate in racism structurally and will claim that it's just being conservative. When it's not being conservative, it's actually being racist because the policies are having a bad impact on black, brown, and First Nation people.
But just for sake of information purposes, it was Eastern Virginia Medical School. And also one of his nicknames, which was in the book, was Coon.
Coon?
That they used to refer to him.
Coon Man.
Coon Man, and this is in the yearbook?
Yeah.
One of his nicknames.
Yes,
Wow.
in the yearbook.
Yes.
Wow. And who's going to take his place if he resigns?
Justin Fairfax, who is, of course, African American.
And Tom, interestingly, Justin Fairfax, who's African American, and I keep honing on this point, has stood with the black people who they're trying to run this pipeline through their community. And the oldest free African American community. Before this happened, Northam didn't stand with them, and when two of the commissioners said this is environmental racism, he removed them from the board. So there's some things we need to be bringing up in addition to the pictures. You see what I'm saying? To show that not only are the pictures something of the past, but some of his positions are racist in the present.
And Reverend Barber, pictures that were shown just recently of Justin Fairfax being the only person not to be in the observation of Confederate Day. Is that right? In Virginia, as Justin Fairfax was seen sitting outside and not participating.
Yeah, he presides over the Senate, and when they stood up to praise Robert E. Lee, he stepped down from the podium and would not preside over that presentation. And it's the second year in a row he's done that.
Second year, yeah.
Well, Virginia wasn't until it was in the 80s when they made the Virginia song that uses very racist words, the state song Emeritus, and put it in the museum. They didn't denounce it. They didn't denounce the racism. They made the state song Emeritus and put it in the museum.
Right around the time these pictures were taken.
Right.
So we shall see if Ralph Northam will step down and if Justin Fairfax will become the second black governor in Virginia's history after Doug Wilder.
Yeah.
We shall see.
And I like what you said, Reverend Barber. If he doesn't step down, then do something for black people.
Right.
I
Let's
like
have
that.
a list.
Yeah.
Didn't part.
Yeah. I like that.
All right. Reverend Barber, thanks a lot.
Take
My
care.
alpha brother.
Oh.
Crazy story.